Sorry.
I didn't see anything major, no adjustments.
Neither did I. Move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And one abstention. Thank you. Okay, next thing we have is Windermere Street sign plan, and I hope we can see it in a scale that I can read.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to have, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'm sure it's quite in order, but we probably should give it a stamp of approval.
Sign plan or which one is the street sign or sign plan?
Probably the sign plan, I believe it is.
I was able to determine from what I could
No,
read
it's the other one.
that this is part of Landis Farms, due south here a quarter of a mile. And it's, I guess, the last street which goes out to the west from the circle. Although they show the circle as a square, I was a little bit confused by that.
So-
You want me to bring the other one up?
Either that or I can do
Okay.
it. We can fight over it.
Well, it's 2 pages.
That is a square.
Yep.
Unless it's not the circle.
We're talking about, I'm not sure it is.
No, it is not from the circle. Windermere is actually one block down, heading towards the township building. And Windermere actually heads east, the portion that we're connecting to Old Windermere.
Which comes from the east. Yes?
Correct, yes, comes east from Harrisburg Pike. It is dedicated to the drainage swale that is down through there, and then it's from the drainage swale and the bridge to Nisley.
So again, it's a bit hard to determine from the plan, but we're talking about stop signs. And being this is Landis Farms, have we implemented no parking one side signage in this plan?
Yes, there are no parking signs that have been up since they actually opened the road. The stop signs are in place. The street name sign is there. The only thing that is not there yet is the pavement markings for the raised crosswalk. And they will be put down after the road is paved. And they are planning to do that in the very near future.
Understood. My memory for Landis Farms particularly is that there was resident resistance to the no parking, and I think we removed them from one of the streets, did we not?
Yes.
So I'm wondering, you've already erected them, Mr. Madonna?
They were put up by the developer. That's their responsibility. And I believe from the last meeting, when we actually removed some of the no parking signs, the board had recommended that we allow it to happen and see if anybody does complain and deal with it at that point, as opposed to just going back in and changing it all.
Mr. LaFever, that only affected Bloomfield Way.
But that is in this Landis Farm.
It is. It was specific to the roads as part of phase 2. Windermere was part of phase 1.
Yes, okay, and so I guess what Mr. Madonna is saying, that we'll leave the signs up and see if there is, again, resident resistance, and if there is, we'll just deal with it again. So there is a precedent matter here, and that was what I had a bit of concern about, but I'm willing to understand that. How about the rest of the commission? Any?
I was just interested in how did we end up with a speed bump there? I know we've talked about using it other place, using them other places. Was there like a traffic study that indicated that should be put there, or was it a?
This was part of their walkway throughout the development, and they decided they wanted a raised crosswalk there, and that was from the beginning in the plans for the land development.
Yeah, this is also mid-block, Mr. Weaver.
Mhm.
This is the only or primary connection for their public trail that goes through, other than anything they have on for crosswalks on sidewalks or anything like that. So with it being at Windermere, it makes more sense for it to be a raised crosswalk.
Is that what I'm seeing going?
So north,
Laser pointer, but
I don't see it.
it's coming up and down.
right there.
No, that's the match line. No, that is the trail.
That's a trail, yeah.
The heavy line is the trail.
Am I seeing a raised intersection or are those 4 crosswalks?
This connects the trails. It's not really an intersection, as I see it.
I don't think that bottom diagram.
That's the trails.
Yeah, this is the trail that goes from the northern section. Over here would be the park or what have you. And then this goes across Windermere. So this is actually going south right now. These over here, this is the intersection of Windermere and Nisley. And
Okay,
it's just highlighting the signs that are being put in and where they're being put in.
Here, and then it goes down.
this is. Yep, okay, okay. All right, how do we feel?
Well, on the signs, the only thing we're really evaluating is the signs that I'm assuming posting of 3 signs. Correct?
I count 4. You have the three down here,
Right.
and then it's hard to see up here,
Okay,
but there is a 4th one right
I
here.
see it, okay. And there are no parking signs, correct?
One of them is a stop sign, one is a street name sign,
Right.
and there should be, I think, just 2 no parking signs.
Right. One in each diagram.
Correct.
Stop on a street or something.
I'm sorry, there's three no parking signs.
John, is that bottom, I'm sorry, is that bottom diagram accurate? Windermere, isn't that, it doesn't end in this, say, a 4-way stop.
Yeah, it does. Oh, 4-way? No.
No, it's just a 2-way.
It's a 2-way. It's only for Windermere, and then I can't remember the name of the street because it changes name once you get over to the western section.
Just one other comment on the raised walkway. Typically, there are other signs that need to be installed. When we do this, I'm thinking of Farmingdale Road, signs before and after. Are
Yes,
those-
they are on the plans to be installed when they put the crosswalk up.
And I need to clarify, I didn't see the one on the exhibit. It's actually 5 signs. The one right here is a speed table sign. Then you have over here a no parking sign. And then the second no parking sign is right here,
Right?
street sign,
Mhm.
and then the stop sign's right there.
I see a speed table sign heading east towards this bump, but I don't see one heading west towards the bump.
That's because the developer, Landis Farm, ends right here. So they're, Perry, I don't know,
That is a sign that we will have to install when it goes in.
Okay.
but to that point, there's no sign going westbound, Mr. Weaver, but there is striping and arrows for the cars approaching the speed table on both east and west.
Sure.
It's similar to what we have going towards the Landisville pool, the striping.
All right.
Okay, how are we disposed on this, gentlemen? would you prefer to table this until the crosswalk and everything is done, or do you want to take action now?
Well, what does staff recommend?
We generally take this before dedication of the road so that when the road is actually done, it's enforceable. And again, before we actually take dedication of the road, we make sure that the signs are completely installed, which most of them are now, with the exception of the stuff for the speed table.
And this is work that we're asking the developer to do, correct? Or it's required that the developer do.
All except the one on the
Right.
existing side.
Right.
That's correct, Mr. Bennett. They'll have to install all but one sign prior to dedication of Windermere.
And I mean, I don't see any reason not to move this along.
Is that a motion?
It is.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote, and all in favor?
Aye.
And that does it, 3-0. We can dispense with that. The next item is our monthly activity report provided by the police department. And we are fortunate to have with us Chief Skiles this evening. And there are concluding comments with each of the areas. I don't know if you want to add anything to them or not.
The only thing that I would like to add is, I think it was when my document was uploaded into the Google document. If you look on the bottom of page 1 where it says trucks, for some reason, Indian Springs isn't the same thing. I think that was a formatting thing when it transferred over. But I don't have anything to add to that report other than a question as to whether or not this meets your needs and if this is helpful. If it's not, I won't spend time on it. If it is helpful or there's something you want to change, I can certainly change it going forward.
I think that's great.
I for one think it's a great report. I appreciate you taking the time to do it. I know it does take some time together, but I think it's a resource for us. I'd like to ask when you continue to do it.
It does have a redundancy to speed study reports, which we also are going to look at next. And actually, I'm not sure from my reading if the speed study reports aren't actually updating what you have here, Chief. I don't know how long ago you did this.
I did not update. I got these, the Spring Valley Road and the Wheatland, I think in the middle of last week, or I did them, I did them last week, so I didn't update this report. I already submitted. So for the August one, I'll update it with the action that you take based on the discussion with Spring Valley Road and Wheatland Avenue, which is next on the agenda.
But the traffic reviews are finished.
Correct.
Okay, any other discussion from the commission regarding these 3 critical areas? I think until in the hopefully not too distant future, we can feel we have control of speeding issues in the township to at least a better degree, that this can be helpful. So thank you, Chief Skiles. And with that, why don't we move to the item 4, speed study reports, and look at Spring Valley Road. And I don't know if I can get my computer to cooperate and get me there, but I did have a note for that we need the public works speed studies.
You have that.
Yeah.
That is a summary. I didn't want to give you I think it's a 30-page document. I didn't want to give you that. You can certainly see it if you'd like to see it. What I gave you, and we submitted, staff talked about it and submitted it. The recommendation is in that, and some comments.
Now, it appears from the analysis that we do have a speeding problem on this road. And that some level of action needs to be taken.
I think the recommendation, if I can speak for the staff, would be that 85% of the cars are traveling above the speed limit. Roads so safe. There's no crashes, pedestrians aren't being run over. I think that our consensus is that it's an arterial road in a residential district. The speed limit set at 25, but it's apparently designed at a faster speed than 25. It's wide and it's straight in this particular stretch. We believe that this would be one of those things that would be prudent for you to consider some kind of speed calming and refer it to the traffic engineer to find out what is the best options there. There are several different options. I'm not going to speak on which one is the best. I think that would have to come from an engineer based on, they would use the results of the study and then take a look at some options. Is that fair, Cindy?
Yeah, and this study was done after the 25 mile per hour was put in. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a post-study.
It was done after the 25-mile-an-hour road markings were placed on, and it was done after a considerable amount of police presence and police enforcement and advisory radar signs. So even after all of that, it's indicating that 55% of the drivers would be subject to traffic citations if I had the resources to be there every day, 24/7. And with all these studies, there are outliers. There are very slow cars and there are very fast cars. And that's going to be true for every street that we do this on. So we're going to base it on average speeds and 85th percentile speeds. And in this case, I think some kind of calming is justified.
And because of the length of the road, we really need an engineer to look at it to see what's the best place to put these, whatever it is.
And this wouldn't be for the whole length of Spring Valley Road. It would be from essentially Sylvan Road to Dorsia. That's the section, because west of Dorsia, there's an S curve, there's hills, and traffic's much calmer there. And traffic closer to, through the area where Jacobs Creek is, there are sidewalks there and that road bends as well. So really what we're identifying is that straight wide section, which is residential, and the residents that came here, I personally believe they have a valid complaint about speed. I think that you're gonna have to decide whether or not the road's designed for that and we do nothing, or we want to slow it down.
I believe we probably do need some professional guidance on this, because I'm concerned if cars get into this stretch and are going fast, what a calming thing like a table might do to throw them out of control and present another problem. So,
And there are other options. There's that other document. I mean, they could put chicanes in, or they could make the road artificially curve. There's other options. Everybody thinks of speed bumps or speed tables, but there are other options. They're progressively more expensive,
Right.
But there are other options.
do we have a concurrence then to see what McMahon Associates can guide us?
We definitely have an issue there.
Okay.
I'm for it.
Chief, Mr. McDonough, we, for several meetings, had speed monitors that were not functioning properly in that. Are they all squared away
I
now?
think we have that worked out, right, Perry?
Yes, we figured out the program. It was a matter of just learning how to actually manipulate the the program. But yes, we feel that it is doing exactly what we expected it to do. And with the help of Officer Lombardo, we were able to pull all the information out of these that we need. We did have the Indian Springs one out and working, but for some reason the battery went dead and it only recorded one day. So I think that was just a error on the part of the battery charger. Wasn't hooked up properly or something, but we have them out again. And we also have Embassy that is completed, and we just will have that ready for the next meeting.
I think we'll have more discussion, I think, under the manager's report concerning a plan moving forward with different roadways and how we're gonna address them. But for today, we have these 2 studies done.
Right, we want to discuss that at the traffic commission, I just didn't have any other means of getting it out there regarding the manual.
We discussed that, but I think it'd be prudent to discuss these 2 studies and then we can talk about the other ones.
Just one thing from my perspective on this particular situation. I assume we could do some type of a road narrowing like we did on Farmingdale Road.
Yeah, that's.
And the, I'm going to call it equipment, the signage, the elements of what was used to narrow that road. Do we still have those?
We purchased them, yes.
Yeah, we purchased them, so we could, even on a temporary basis.
We just have to be careful. I mean, we have to have some advice from an engineer.
Okay, but that's what I'm thinking, you know, you know, I get the whole thing about speeding and the speed limits. This is a stretch of road where people are forced to walk on the road. And, you know, I really do think that road narrowing was a really effective way of slowing things down. I guess that was before the speed tables. And that might be a good first step, just a suggestion.
I'll tell him
Since we have the equipment.
I'll tell him to look at that, that's something we can implement potentially in August.
Right.
Very quickly.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I think we have a plan to go forward on that one, and I've moved forward to the Wheatland Avenue report.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a question. When you're talking about Farmdale, what's the volume on Farmdale compared to the volume on Spring Valley? When you put up any type of alternative traffic,
Don't know that we have that information without doing some research.
I'm just, I was surprised to see the volume on Spring Valley. I mean, that's, high volume, I think.
Basically 2,000 cars a day, yes.
Right.
that's-
And I know it's, you labeled it, what is it, what type of road is it? An artery road?
It's a
Collector.
Collector.
And I was looking at that, those roads last meeting about you naming them, and I think they need to be more categorized, okay? Because if you look at a collective road, like
Colleen.
Centerville Road.
Colleen, I'm sorry, the people on Zoom can't hear you,
Oh, okay.
and that's our secretary
Oh, you
can't
want me
hear
to go
you.
up there?
Yes, please.
Sorry.
There's no one, she can't hear what you're saying.
Okay.
And to do the minutes makes it easier.
Okay, what I'm looking at is the volume on the collective road of Spring Valley compared to, Farmdale Road is not a collective road, right? Is that?
It used to be, but it no longer is.
Okay, but I think the collective roads maybe need to be more categorized, like as far as volume goes. Because I was really surprised to see how many cars go on Spring Valley. And that to me is major, and I don't like speed bumps. I'm with the non-speed bump issue because I've seen in my work what speed bumps do when cars are going fast, and especially on that strip of road. You can expect cars to approach it from each direction going a little faster. So, maybe the cattle chutes of whatever you want to call them to deter the speed is a good thing. But, I just think that we should look at these collective roads in more specifics regarding the volume and where they are, like what people are using them, where are they coming from, where are they going? Because in Spring Valley, they're coming from the health campus, and, 30, and they're going, towards Centerville. And then the people who live in Centerville, and sometimes they use it as a cutoff too, but especially with the construction that's gonna go on in South Centerville Road, a lot of people are gonna use Spring Valley as a, offshoot, to get to 30 instead of, so I think I'm just looking at, we need to look at the volume even being more on Spring Valley during the construction. And, I just think the engineer is definitely a person to look at. But I really think that collective roads can, you can categorize them as that, but I really think that they should be more specific as to each road regarding the volume. Like, we can label now Spring Valley volume 2,000 cars a month, a week, what is it, a day? Where, let's see what another collective road does a day. And I think that's the way we should look at and categorize these roads and as to what they are due regarding speed, how we look at them for speed deterrent.
Each of those categories, it might give us guidance as to which type of thing to implement.
Right.
But the purpose of the collector is to move traffic.
Right.
Just that we want to move it at an acceptable speed.
Right.
And that seems to be an issue on collectors, arterials, and
Oh,
neighborhoods.
it
and all the
definitely.
streets, yes.
Yeah, but I'm impressed to see how many different ways that we can deter traffic. And I think we should look at the roads, each collective road as an entity of their own regarding volume. So we can, proceed accordingly. And is it a residential road? I don't think all collective roads are resident. I don't know. They're not all
An interesting question that I had myself about my residence on Landisville Road,
right,
because it is not a residential area.
Right.
And yet there are residences. And the speed limit's 40, it's not 25.
right.
And so it is a collector, or maybe it's an arterial, I'm really not sure. It gets a lot of traffic, I know.
So
I think at the end of the day, whether it's a collector road or arterial road, whether the speed limit is 25, 35, or 40, it's our responsibility to evaluate whether what's going on there is done in a safe manner.
Right.
So it's hard to, create a one-size-fits-all
Exactly, right.
approach.
Mhm.
And I think with the new, we're going to take a look at a new evaluation process,
All right.
way to handle this. I think with that, we're moving sort of in the direction that you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That would be good because, it's confusing and not confusing, but I just think we need to be more specific.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move forward to the next location, which is not as challenging, let me say, is the Wheatland Avenue, where the speed studies say that 85% of the people are driving okay. Here's where we had asked the residents that came forward to try and help us by providing plate numbers or some identification where they saw what they determined was violations. And to my knowledge, we have not had any input or response to that at all.
Not that I'm aware of. Nobody emailed or called.
So, given the fact that our study shows that traffic is at 27 miles per hour for the 85th percentile, I believe we could take this off of the concern list for now and record that we've evaluated it and feel that it is okay. How does the rest of the commission feel?
Sounds like a motion to me.
Okay, we have
I
a
think
motion from
we've
the
addressed
chair.
it. We've addressed it.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you on that one.
I just had a question. Did we require them to come up with a petition before we did this, or was that?
This
Kind
one
of
we did
like-
not, no.
No, we didn't ask them for a
Just asking for
petition.
help.
Man, I don't know that we really need to do that. We can just do the study and see if there's a problem or isn't there. And
Yeah, that was a
Done.
thought when we were initially challenged with these questions from residents, and wanted to try and find a bit more understanding of how much of an issue it was. And I think we've moved beyond needing that. I know on your Nisley Road, we did that, but I think we got good results from that. And so it's a case by case maybe on these situations. And as long as we feel we're gaining on it, I guess we can
I agree.
have some satisfaction. The next one on the 3 bullets here under 4 is the Pine Tree and Indian Springs. And it concludes with saying that the information is pending. Did you say something between Perry and Chief to the contrary?
Yeah, Perry brought it up. We did, Pine Tree Way is complete. Indian Springs, we had a mishap, and that one is being done again. So for the next meeting, my hope is that you can address Pine Tree and Indian Springs together, because to deal with one and not the other is going to be a mistake. So that needs to be dealt with as one project.
Okay. So I'm at item 5, which is old business. And the item here is the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program. And Mrs. Schweitzer's referred us to her manager's report under the Board of Supervisors. And I'll defer to her on this matter for an explanation.
So as directed by the commission, we did meet with Chris Bauer of McMahon Associates to get his opinion and thoughts on putting in place something similar to the manual that Chief had presented last meeting. And he was hesitant and concerned and actually followed the lead of the chief as well, that if we took this literally the way it was presented, it would be very, very difficult to administer. And would be cumbersome even to cumbersome to staff as well as the residents. So we hashed it around and talked about it a little bit. And what we came up with was, instead of a manual, we would be proactive and start doing traffic studies on our roadways, starting with the high ones, the difficult ones, the high volume ones, doing those traffic studies and getting everything on a cycle where the 4 years or 5 years, just every time redo them again. If we get complaints to the traffic commission of speeding or whatnot, we could refer back to those traffic studies. It's just staff time. We have the equipment. We would create the database. We would have answers for the traffic commission when the questions came before them. If a traffic study was becoming stale, getting close to the 5-year, perhaps maybe we then would just do one. But otherwise, it would just be referencing back to the study that we had done before.
Would it be appropriate to say that in fact we've already implemented this with Spring Valley and Pine Tree and the ones that we're dealing with? Is that not the way you're saying?
We were more reactive. We would wait till people came to us with a problem and then go out and do the study.
Right. Okay.
This way, we would actually go through our road system
Okay.
and do the high volume ones first and go down through, and it might take us a few years to get accomplished. But at least we would have a database of information.
Okay.
And
Good
currently, if I'll add to that, Sergeant Lombardo and Mark Freitag have already developed a list of roads that are priority, and the priorities are the ones that have come before you already. So those that are already in the works to finish this list that we've been trying to address, once that list is done, then we'll be proactive and then go towards those roads that we know that we get complaints on, or we've had complaints on, or we have enforcement issues. And that way, when somebody were to come in, we can say, well, last month we did a study and here are the results. Or last month or 6 months ago, whatever it may be. Or we can let those people know that that's coming up as one of the future studies and try to be proactive.
And we might even find another Spring Valley that no one's complained about, but there's a problem that we need to look at. So that could be bumped up on the list to look at it. Eventually, as this program matures and develops, we'd create a budget line item for roadway improvements for traffic calming improvements. Because right now, if we put a speed bump in or we raise the walkway or put chicanes in, there's no funding for it. But we probably should have those because we have the issues.
Yeah, I like being able to track it over time, and also if we get some kind of control measure in, we'll have before information and after to see if it actually works. So,
And you'll see progressing of roadways that are getting worse.
yeah.
Or
and maybe
better,
Figure out
potentially.
why.
Right,
I think it's a
right.
Great idea.
And
I think
it's
that
more a proactive approach as opposed to waiting and sitting back and waiting for them to come to you.
And I think the budget aspect is being proactive with that makes sense. Because now if somebody comes in here, complains about speeding, say in March or April, and we determine that it's a real and not a perception, and then you want speed bumps, say, to put in, and they're about 6,000 to 7,000 per
Seven.
bump.
Yep.
So you always need 2 or 3. And so then it's not in the budget. So now we're waiting until all but a year until anything can be done before anything can be put in. So,
We'd also like to put that material out on the website as well. I mean, it's public information. There's studies, put them out there. Put out options that we've looked at, chicanes and bumps and put price tags on them, that these things cost dollars and this is the program we're suggesting.
yeah, I think
And
what was
also-
the next, it was speed bumps was like 6 or 7 grand. And then I
15,
think the chicanes were 15 to 20,000.
then
So, I mean, there is
30,000.
always a cost to everything, clearly. But a lot of these aren't just an easy fix. But then there's also a lot, and I think that we'll be able to determine by doing these proactively. There's perception issues. If you're standing in your front yard and a car drives by at 30, sometimes it feels like 50. And we had a gentleman that we put on Spring Valley Road or Indian Springs, and we put the radar sign up. And he was very surprised to see that cars were doing 25. He thought they were much faster than that. So I think there's an education component that comes with it as well.
Even as far as enforcement, that would kind of give you an idea which way to, which roads to
yes.
spend a little more time on. Not that we don't want to spend, I mean, we want a police presence all over as much as possible, but
But we want to use it wisely. So, and that information
Yeah.
would be available.
That's the nice thing about this new program is that when we run the study, it will print a report that will tell me these are the peak hours and the peak days when there are the most violations. So instead of just guessing at when to put out 4 officers, I can narrow it down to a window of time when it would be most effective.
even better.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying you would use, and that's why I was thinking about classifying the collective roads is by the volume and maybe the speed. If you did that as a proactive measure and you found, issues, you wouldn't have to wait for a resident to complain about it, right?
No.
You would be proactive in repairing it or addressing it.
Yeah, if we came up with another Spring Valley Road that had significant issues that need to be addressed, and it's in a residential area that we know people are walking in.
Right.
So, yeah, no, we wouldn't wait.
I've never thanked Mr. Madonna for 15 years ago. I gave my daughter and her friends a civic lesson, eating the road. And they came to me one day and they said, we were riding our bikes and we don't feel safe, Mom. We don't feel safe on riding our bikes in the Milmar section of Chapel Forge and then Milmar, all back there. So I said, well, get a petition, so I did a petition and they brought it around. They had like 50 signatures on it about people speeding in the neighborhood. And then we came here, I don't think you had a traffic commission yet. And we came here and they presented it. And then we wanted the watch children signs. Okay, and the issue at the time, do you remember, Mr. Madonna, any of that? No?
So, yeah.
The issue at the time was that PennDOT was doing away with watch children signs because they were non-regulatory and they weren't spending money on non-regulatory. So, and I said, well, because they did a study and they stopped people and they were still speeding with these signs. I said, well, okay, so you're saying, all right, then how many lives did they save? You know, I said, because being a commercial claims adjuster, a car goes 5 miles an hour as opposed to 10 miles an hour, and there's a lot more damage to a child at 10 miles an hour. And well, we didn't do any study. I said, well, that's because if you have one person that was benefited from that sign from going slow, you'd have to put them on every road in the state. But anyway, but then, so we got the sign. So Perry, we got the signs. We got the signs because my daughter and I had complained a couple of years before that. And there was some issue with someone leaving and we fell through the cracks. So because we had originally complained before this PennDOT's regulation of that, we were able to grandfather in the signs. So when the signs were up, let me tell you, those girls were like, we did it, you know, but it was such a lesson in civics for them that, you know, you don't, you know, if you don't like to see something, you say something, you know, you have a say in your community. So that's helped them through life, I know. All right, thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So in terms of moving forward, that's the recommendation staff is
Correct.
putting forth. Chief, you're good with it?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
How soon will we be able to begin the process?
Well, we've already started it in terms of the roadways we're doing now. We'll just continue it. So as the Public Works Department has time and Sergeant Lombardo points out the roadways that need it, we'll just continue to do it.
Okay, so we can, on an ongoing basis, we'll have a list of
We already do.
roads.
We already have that list and we're working through it. And Perry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we could, it's a 7-day, the equipment goes out for 7 days and then it needs the battery recharged. Technically, I think we could probably get another set of batteries and they could really continuously stay out, but we'll figure we could probably do 3 streets a month approximately, depending on the month and what's, you know, the weather.
We have 4 batteries actually. So as soon as we bring them in and download the stuff, we can put a fresh set of batteries in and take them right out. If there are poles and signs in the area, that makes it easier to attach our unit to. But in some areas where there's no utility poles or signs in the immediate area, we then have to go out and install a signpost real quick. So that may give us, you know, a little bit of a delay time. But the other thing is too, the 2 units, they can do both directions at the same time if it's a 2-lane road. When you get to a 3-lane road, you actually need to use both units at the same time. So it all depends on the road, what's available to hang them on. So, but yeah, we can easily turn out, 3-4 studies a month easily.
Okay.
Let's shoot for 2 a month. We'll guarantee that.
Well, even if we did 1 a month, we'd be much further ahead than what
That's
we've
true.
been. So,
That's true.
I mean, and I think that the reason that we're in the position that we're in with this seemingly backed up, you know, we keep going month to month, is our equipment wasn't working, or we wouldn't have this many. I mean, I've been here 11 years and we've never had 6 or 7 spots of contention. They've always been addressed. But when the equipment didn't work and then it was winter and I think we're on a good path, and I don't want to step too far in the future, but I think give us till the end of the summer. And I think that we'll have reports and you guys will be able to take action. And my guess is more than half of these will be eliminated as being a perceptual issue rather than a fact. And we'll be able to move forward.
Could your monthly activity report be expanded a bit just to have the list of the place, the streets and how we're progressing on them?
And whether they're resident driven or
Well, they're all going to be
staff.
township driven.
Well, there's going to be township driven. We're evaluating the roads and road speeds, independent of whether we're going to get any resident complaints. But I think the Traffic Commission report is a good place for that. And then just indicate on the report whether it's a resident driven request or it's a township driven request.
I'd be more than happy to do that for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
We have an item of new business.
Did have an old business also.
Old business?
If you want to go to new business, that's fine.
No, no, we'll do old business while we're on,
Back.
please.
My opinion is that Nissy Road is better. My wife was talking with people across the street and they feel that if it did get better, it's now back to the way it was. Although as the chief said, sometimes when you're standing right there, it does seem like the cars might be going faster than they really are. So it could be some of that. But I said I would mention it. So I've just done that.
And I think that was on our list to go back
It
and
is.
redo it.
Yeah.
So we'll get there and that's probably high on the list.
I mean, my office is right next to Nissy Road. I can hear people going very fast once in a while. It doesn't seem to be a constant issue, but
And that's one of the issues that comes up is when we get complaints and I put officers there doing enforcement. The residents get the idea and they slow down. And what we're finding is most speeding in neighborhoods, it's the people that live in the neighborhoods that are speeding. So when we're there, we spend time there, they slow down, but then we have to move to the other complaints
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then people
Absolutely.
in a neighborhood know that we're not there again. So
it's like whack-a-mole.
I was going to use that same phrase.
Well, thank you, Mr. Weaver. Okay, if there's no other old business, are there any items of new business for the commission? Hearing none, we would open for public comment. Mr. Jacobson has a public comment.
I was communicating with my neighbors with the trucks on Centerville Road, and I didn't even notice. My neighbor said there's a new sign on State Road approaching Centerville Road, going up the hill, no truck. I don't even know. I'm just saying what she's telling me. Is there any new signs out there? No?
I don't know.
All right, so, I've seen trucks at night. I mean, even the other night I was coming home, it was like 9:30, making a left onto Centerville from Harrisburg Pike. And there was a JB Hunt truck that was stopped at the light to go across Harrisburg Pike. I don't know where it was going because I was going the opposite direction. But it seems that, they're at night. Now, my other neighbors say, no, they're during the day. It's not like it was when the road first opened, State Road first opened. But it's still a consistent type of usage, and, as I said, I love truckers, they're our lifeline, but there's other roads that they could use. And they're probably designated, like, if it's Hershey, if it's Kellogg's, they know what routes that they need to take. Supposedly maybe by the logistics guy. But, it's just an issue that it's an ongoing issue. We all deal with it. But, I just wanted to mention again, because it's still occurring. And I haven't staked it out yet. I haven't staked out the road yet, and I will, maybe now between here and next meeting. But I just wanted to bring that up. And
That is something we're looking at. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, with all the work that's been done on State Road
right,
and Centerville, some of the signs have come down. We're looking at the traffic studies. We're looking at it globally across the township. How do trucks get in and out of the township?
Right.
And Centerville is a main function of that, so.
Right. And, I'll reiterate again that I'm all for increasing the fines. I mean, if you're looking at maybe increasing the weight of what you're allowing on roads based on the history of the last time those signs were made, I think looking at fines, and again, I love truckers, I don't want to hurt them in any way, but they're, it's on Centerville Road, it's a residential road. I mean, there's residents on that. It's a collective road, but it's residents. And, we're just lucky that no truck has gone through the fencing, for some reason. Well, kids are playing. But, I just wanted to bring that up again. And what was the other issue with that? And it's, it's a lot, it's at night. You hear the trucks at night. But, okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Is there anything from Zoom? There's nothing from Zoom. Very well. I believe then we could look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Bennett. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second from Mr. Weaver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.